My name is Tim, and I wanted to discuss your video about Ben Shapiro, about the bozo Ben Shapiro clashes with college student. First of all, I found the video really cool and funny. And so I wanted to ask about the topic where you said that gender is a social construct while sex is biological. And so my response or my question would be, why do you think that sex is biological? Because from what I know from like queer theory or queer studies, sex is also considered to be social construct, as it's like a grouping of people based on certain characteristics.
Well, I would say that the categories or the way in which we categorize sex would be socially constructed. Like, for example, the fact that we consider a penis as a biological trait of a male oftentimes, that's socially constructed, right?
Oh,
like
yeah,
if humans didn't exist, then there would just be creatures with a vagina and a penis, and it wouldn't necessarily be male, female. So I recognize that the categories are socially constructed, but when I say sex is biological, I just mean that it's something that is a part of your body that can be witnessed or it can be tested, like hormones and whatnot. So I don't think that that's socially constructed in the same way that like gender is.
Okay, so I maybe disagree here on one. So I know that this is a rather nuanced disagreement here, but I still want to push on this one. So I don't think that gender is necessarily purely socially constructed thing that you cannot test, because like imagine in like hundreds and hundreds of years you would probably have some MRI technology that can determine based on the brain levels of a person that their gender identity is this or that. However, so the point here I'm trying to make is that it's not necessarily that gender is only socially constructed. It's like it's valid because we're simply putting it into a box of it, but it doesn't, just because it's observable doesn't mean that it's not or is socially constructed, right?
Well, no, it's not the fact that it's observable as much as what is classified as gender are based on socially constructed expectations and roles. So like the one I always go to is like wearing a suit, of course, which there's nothing biological about that. It's just socially constructed and socially decided that usually men wear suits.
But the same applies to sex, right? So like when we say that this is a man and this is a woman, we also prescribe certain gender or certain social norms, right?
Well, we categorize it differently, but it's the categories are based on a biological reality.
Yeah, but you can also have
the category is socially constructed. I'm not disagreeing with you on that, but
okay.
What we're categorizing is something that's biological. Whereas with gender, yes, the labels are all socially constructed. I mean, language is socially constructed.
Yeah, of course.
But gender is more of the behaviors, expectations, and roles that you fill oftentimes, where it's not as tied to your biology the same way that like hormones or chromosomes or genitalia would be.
Yeah, of course. Okay, then I probably didn't really understand your point from the video itself, because I remember watching philosophy tubes on social constructs, and her claim there was that even sex is completely social construct, because you can have an alternative society where people simply have 3 or 7 how do you say it sexes, and then it's again just a simple clarification, or it's just a construct that we create, like a grouping of it, right? So you can have the same species, but you divide them into different groups, and that also implies that sex is not biological, but rather like a characteristic. But I understand your point now that you're describing just like...
A characteristic would be, in this case, a biological characteristic, right? That's why I say that sex is bimodal, because it's true, again, that we have socially constructed the sexual binary that we use to measure certain sexual characteristics, but I feel as though that still is getting at something biological that we're using to examine or measure, right?
But when you say bimodal, you recognize intersex people, right?
Of course.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think I was just didn't get your point that thoroughly, but I think your explanation makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I also wanted to say that I am actually the Christian guy who was texting you in the chat, because you wanted to discuss something with Christians, and I am one, so... If you have any questions on that or any concerns, I wanted to discuss that as well if you want to.
I mean, yeah, why are you a Christian?
So I was born in Russia, and so my family is like heavily Christian. And so to me, it's like a lot of connected, it's a largely connected thing with my community or with my family and my friends. And so this is like something that I build upon. But I also, unlike, let's say, Lawrence Arden's fans, recognize that Christianity or religion should be distinguished from government, which also applies to, let's say, my political views, right? So I when I discuss morality or when I discuss, like, let's say gay people, I don't impose my religious beliefs on other people, right?
Right.
And so I think I disagree. I think I agree with basically everything that you said in your discussion on Lauren Southern and her tweets. I just don't think that it's like all Christians are equally stupid as the people who were responding to your tweets. That's my only like assertion there.
No, I agree with that too. I mean, I might end up needing to walk this back, but I feel as though there are definitely like rational theists, but I don't know how much rationale you can have as a Christian. And that's not like a diss at you, but it's just that like, even like yesterday, I was doing a lot of deep diving into the Bible and the accuracy and what it was based on, and if it actually holds truths or if it's more of like a myth or legends. And when I see people, especially because I have family members that are Christian also, who take the Bible very literally, I feel like you have to kind of suspend rationale a little bit to believe that there was a talking snake, or believe that somebody walked on water, or believe that, you know, somebody died and then rose again 3 days later.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Stuff like that I find to be very just irrational to believe in. But I do think, like I said, you can be a rational theist. I think that there is definitely strong arguments to be made that there is some kind of greater mind behind how we got here. I think that you could make that argument. But a lot of the times when theists start talking about that, again, we have no like conclusive proof of a god. We might be able to give good evidence that there was some kind of an intelligent mind behind our creation. But in that case, once again, I would say, well, why couldn't it just be like aliens then?
Oh, yeah, of course.
How do we know? How do we know it was God?
No. So like I study philosophy at University College London, and so one of the courses that I had was on religious philosophy, and the questions that we discussed was whether, let's say, transcendental experiences of individuals is also considered to be valid evidence, right? So like if I told you that, I don't know, I spoke to a god or something like that, does it mean that I am justified in making that argument that God exists, right? Just because I cannot prove it. And so I think that in this case, like I believe in God because I have certain transcendental experiences in my life, but I do not impose it on others because I know that it's a non-falsifiable argument, and it's impossible for me to, you know, convince someone of certain things I experience without any proof. Which pisses me off because other Christians are trying to do the opposite of that, and then it appears like all of us are stupid.
No, and I understand that too, and I think that that's definitely like the best way you could go about it, because like the thing is when people say like I saw a demon or I felt God's presence or whatever, like I don't think that they're lying. I think that they probably are convinced that they saw or experienced something. I'm just not convinced that it's God.
Oh yeah, and I think that's completely fair to me. Like it makes a lot of sense, and I think even the people in your chat are right now making analogies to drugs, which I think is great because that's actually like one of the comparisons to be made. So like, how is transcendental experience comparable to, let's say, drug experience when you're on DMT and then you see some random stuff? Does it mean you saw them actually, or can you make that argument? But that's just like random thoughts from a philosophy student.
Right.
But in general, I hope your fight with Lauren Southern on Twitter goes well. And if you want to, you can say that there is a random Christian guy who agrees with everything you're saying.
I'll be like, yeah, well, I have a Christian friend who likes what I say. Perfect.
Yeah, of course. No worries. Okay.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on. I'm glad that we could have this, although short, still a really good discussion.
No worries. I agree with everything you're saying. Otherwise, I saw how you changed your mind during the Wash discussion like 2-3 years ago, and I think this is amazing about you. So yeah, wish you best.
Sure.
No worries.
All right. Well, hey, have a good rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.